The mass media seems to be crazy right now, and they just confirmed a lot of things that you should pay close attention to. I'm going to start with what I think is the funniest news story ever. Have you guys heard of the Kramer index that goes backwards? This is what Jim Cramer said. According to him, the market is about to give up some gains. Almost right after he said that last night, the market did the opposite. It really only started pumping again. That's right, the mainstream story has reached a very clear turning point that is obviously wrong, like this Jim Cramer video. Now is the time to pay attention, because they're trying to get us to believe a story that isn't true. We'll talk about that some more later. But yeah, I always buy this when this guy is negative. I'm gonna buy because this guy is always the biggest crook. Whole city of New York. However, there are also many important events going on between Trump and Putin that will have a big impact on the markets, whether we like it or not. Bloomberg says that President Trump is going to talk to Putin about a peace deal for Ukraine and that a statement could be made on Tuesday. I want to tell you all that today is Monday. Since a peace deal is expected to be announced on Tuesday, the markets must be going crazy, right? People have said over and over that post-war protests are usually completely silly, and it looks like every market is getting ready for a huge rise. The stock market just went up almost $1 trillion in value in one day. The crypto market as a whole made a strong comeback, and a lot of it is still going up a good amount. Also, yes, the markets are getting ready for something that could be very good for them. If there's no big news on Tuesday, I think the markets will go down a bit because they seem to be pricing in some good news right now. If there is news that the war between Russia and Ukraine is over, I think it will be something really great. But you can see that Trump says, I think we're getting along pretty well with Russia. We'll wait until Tuesday to see if we have something to say. He says that a deal is likely. In a way, he's getting ready to say, okay, I think this is going to be the end of it. I will also say that Trump has done some good things. It is good that he did make the Russian troops spare the lives of many Ukrainians when they had them trapped but not attacked. Obviously, saving people's lives is great, and we love it when things like that happen. We can also see that the US and world economies as a whole are very negative right now. Isn't it very interesting? There is some great news, but the market mood is very low right now, which doesn't happen very often. Okay. Also, some pretty interesting things are happening with inflation right now. These will have a big impact on the coin market, which we'll talk about in a moment. But first, I need to talk about this. The Conference Board's leading economic index, LEI, went down 3% year over year in 2024, making it the third year in a row that it went down. This is the same 3-year streak that happened during the financial collapse of 2008. As you can see from this picture, there was a huge drop. The index has gone down over a month. Over a month 32 times out of the last 34 months. Consumer hopes for business conditions and the ISM New Orders Index were the two things that dragged down the index the most over the last 6 months. The LEI is now 15.5% less than it was at its highest point. Will the US economy slow down almost as much as it did during the recessions of the 1970s and 1980s? This is a good question. Will it slow down? Some things point to that being the case, but when you look at the stock market and the inflation numbers, you think, this is the strangest time in history. It's completely crazy and so on. The way we think about recessions now seems to have changed a lot since the 1980s. I think it's possible that the US is in a recession, but what Biden did with all those government jobs might change how we look at it. No matter what though, what's going on here is really strange, right? At the same time, this data shows that the USDA says market egg prices have gone down for 3 weeks in a row, now standing at $4.15 per dozen. Some say it costs about $3.85 per dozen. In just 1 week, that's lost about $2.70. What's making this happen? In a strange twist, there is one egg company, Cal-Maine Foods, that has a monopoly on the Western markets in the United States. Plus, they have to lower their prices now that there are new rules. Because of this, the Trump government sees it as a clear sign that things are getting worse. But what was wrong was that these manufacturers and producers were doing the same thing in many places across the US. Due to their monopolistic tactics, they were able to raise their prices by crazy amounts. In other words, they ate up a lot of the other businesses in the area. Since they didn't have any rivals, they were able to pretty much make their own market. So to make up for the money they just spent buying all these other farms, they raised their prices. So this is what we see now. The Trump government tells people, no, you can't do that. Your prices need to go down, or we'll go after you. All of this is going on behind the scenes. It's not really being talked about, but prices are going down because of it. And it is possible that they will, loosen the chains a bit on these guys. In any case, This is one of the main ways that Americans beat inflation. It tells the companies that run the markets and make crazy amounts of money, hey, if you don't change something, we're going to go after you. And yes, I believe this is the best way to make the market competitive. We don't want any monopolies in the space. We want many businesses to compete with each other. As we've seen, monopolies cause a lot of problems. How much a lot of different things cost. Make sure that the biggest player doesn't always win. Because that person will always put their owners first and make sure they make as much money as possible. Of course, they won't care nearly as much about the average person who buys their goods because their goals aren't very similar. Having said that, there are also a lot of attacks on the central government and what it has been doing, like printing a lot of money. Recently, Elon Musk talked about magical money computers. This is because the federal government has been printing money out of thin air for a long time, which is another great reason for cryptocurrency that we'll talk about in a moment. I only want to play this clip though. It's really funny, pay attention. I call it a magic computer because it can make money appear out of nowhere. That's money that can heal. How does that work then? It only sends cash, and you said that 11 of these computers at the Treasury are sending funds worth trillions of dollars. Most of them are at Treasury. Some of them work at HHS, one at the DoD, and some at HHS. I believe we have now found 14 magic money computers. They send money that doesn't exist. That's what I call it. So the real way to fight inflation is to go after monopolies that raise prices unfairly because they don't have any other options. It makes sense. On top of that, we should go after the federal government's silly magical money computer system which prints money out of thin air and gives it to people to spend. This is what makes our money worth less. Right? We deal with inflation in this way, which makes sense. The people who are into cryptocurrencies should know this right away. If you print billions and billions of Bitcoin, for example, and then people sell them and exchange them for cash or Ethereum, that will make Bitcoin less valuable. It must, right? There's no doubt about it. But the US government has been doing this for, 70 years, ever since we got rid of the gold standard. That is completely crazy. This has been going on for a long time. But finally, most people are waking up. This will help inflation rates once more, which will help the economy take off, and it will also allow the Federal Reserve to keep lowering interest rates. Okay, let's see this. Want to see the Fed more or less offload their balance sheets, see more people go into investments, more people get more mortgages, keep the economy going. That's exactly what we want to see. So yeah, a lot of things have been going on in a global sense. We're seeing a lot of different big things go on. Mostly though, it's good news, guys. We're seeing a lot of wars that are basically getting thrown out the window, and I'm very happy to see this. This is exactly what the world needs right now. In summary, we have, Russia-Ukraine war coming to an end here. We have the federal government finally being held accountable for all of their money printing. There are also companies that are being held responsible for their press. They were able to make the market, so they raised prices which led to inflation. With all of that out of the way, I think now is a great time to get into the crypto markets because good things are about to happen. All of that is before we even talk about all the great news we have coming for XRP, which ends with ETFs. All of this is taking place this year. Like I said before, when it does happen, it will be very different. You should be there for that. Simply remember yourself that this is just the beginning of your XRP journey. If you want to get more XRP and take advantage of some of the best bonuses and lowest trading fees, join BTCC right away and start trading. And if you do that, you can also copy my trades if you just join into